good. It had some long-term consequences. But see what happened. So when you do that with people, you don't teach them to be less afraid. You teach them to be braver. That's different. And so like I had a client once, the doors opened on the elevator and she looked in and she said, that's death. Like that's a tomb. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing response. And her idea was she'd go in there, her heart rate would accelerate, she'd have a heart attack and she'd die. So as far as she was concerned, walking in there was death. Right? Okay, so for me it was an elevator, but for her it was death. It's like, okay, well, what do you do about your fear of death? Well, we're not getting rid of that. It's like, and you could die in the elevator. You actually could. Probably you won't, but people do die in elevators. And her idea was that, well, if anyone has ever died in an elevator in the history of mankind, that's a good reason for me not to be in the elevator. It's like, fair enough, And then why aren't you terrified out of your skull all the time? Because while you're wandering around, you might have a heart attack. Like that will probably, in fact, happen to you at some point. So why aren't you terrified of that at every moment? Well, that's the mystery. Well, so you treat people, and you see with that client, what I eventually did with her is we went and watched an embalming. She was terrified of death, like date seriously. Night. Yeah, yeah.
Good times.
Right, no kidding. But so you don't get less afraid. You get braver. That's better because there's plenty of things to be afraid of. But you can get braver. So that's something.
Do people manage this on their own ever?
Oh, yeah. People manage it on their own. They manage it on their own all the time. Like, let's say you're in a ratty, horrible job and you're being oppressed by your boss. And one day you think, I've had enough. And you go write your resume. It's like, there you go. That's what you're doing. It's like, you're because you think, well, I've got the devil I know. And then there's the devil I don't know. And that's relevant when you're trying to switch careers. Can I find another job? Will anyone hire me? How long will this take? Do I have to get educated again? I have to put my resume together. That's a real pain because there's holes in it and I don't know how to present myself. Then I have to go to interviews and it's like, oh my God, that's a lot of trouble. Well, then you think, no, I'm going to start that. I'm going to rewrite my resume. It's like, well, then up you get, right? Mm-hmm. You're moving forward in your life. You're not being tyrannized by your son of a bitch of a boss and you're out to do something about it, and people can get really good at that. So one of the things you do as a psychotherapist is you do assertiveness training. It's like, so people come and they say, help, I'm being oppressed in the famous Monty Python manner. And you say, okay, look, well, first of all, you're probably whining a lot. So let's figure that out. So you quit whining, and then let's figure out how you actually are oppressed and what might be done about it. And then let's figure out a strategy, and then let's help you practice the strategy until you get good at it. And let's also map out the consequences of not fixing it. Because people think, well, how can I stand up to my boss? It's like, that's terrible. I risk my job. It's like, yeah, fair enough. No wonder you're afraid of that. Maybe you should just shut up. Let's see what your life would be like in 10 years if you just shut up. It's like, you know how bad it is now? It's like, it's going to be way worse than that because you're going to shrink and shrink and shrink, and your boss is going to become more and more tyrannical, and you're going to hate every minute of your life. And it's like, you want that, or do you want to confront your boss or change jobs? It's like, oh, I see. It's like hell here, and it's hell here. I get it. I get to pick which of those I'm going to walk down. And that's a relief to people most of the time. It's so funny because people often think they're paralyzed because they think that there's a good option. Right?
Yeah.
But one of the things you do as a psychotherapist is say, oh no, you're screwed. No matter which way you turn, it's like a crocodile here and it's a wolf there, and behind you there's a hyena. It's like there's no lambs. You're not in lamb territory. Right. It's all predators. Well, pick your battle. And then all of a sudden you're in the battle. And then it doesn't matter that it's a hyena because you're warrior. So fine, bring it on.
This is coming to another point that I picked up from the book that I have a leadership and management consulting company, so I work with companies all the time. And one of the topics that's come up a bunch in the past couple of years is, when you're dealing with someone, you're dealing with an employee, and you got to fire them, and how this is a big, hard conversation, and et cetera, et cetera. No one wants to have those. And I always say, look, if you have the hard conversation earlier, it's not so hard. Because all I have to tell you is, hey, Jordan, you were late today, and we're not supposed to be late. And you go, oh, sorry.
Right.
And the problem sorts itself out, or it doesn't, and then I got to escalate.
Yeah.
But what you talk about in the book is, if there's a problem, go attack it. You go get that problem solved. Don't go after that dragon.
Well-
You know the dragon's in there. Go get it.
Well, your observation is dead on. It's like, and this is the problem with being too nice. Like, I don't regard nice as a virtue, or if it's a virtue, it's a very low order virtue. Because what nice usually means, is, I don't want to cause conflict now, even though the consequences of the conflict might multiply into the future. So let's say you have an employee that's chronically late, right? But I don't really want to disturb them. I don't want to cause any trouble. It's like, well, you're angry about it because they're late and they're not supposed to be. So you're getting all bitter and resentful. Plus, you're not doing them any favors, because you're also telling them that you can be taken advantage of and that their lack of discipline is okay. And then, so then you're going to dislike the employee and you're going to amplify their other errors because of your distaste. And if they are someone who's taking advantage of you, then they're going to take advantage of you a little more, and then a little more, and then a little more, and a little more. And then you're going to have a really difficult conversation or put up with it. And that might sink your business, especially if you're a small business owner. So by not confronting the dragon when it's like 2 inches high and can only, it's like it can belch out something like a Bic lighter. You wait until the thing can inflame the whole room, and then you say, oh my God, like, isn't this hellish? It's like, well, you knew that there was something to say. You knew it. You knew it 1,000 times. And now you can't just say the one thing. You have to say the 1,000 things, or maybe you have to say the 10,000 things. And it's just destructive in every way. So yeah, that's not good.
Now,
Not
here's
good.
where I need help with